everybody ready?
Okay.
Deb?
Yep.
Jane? All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. We'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. You can join today's board meeting via phone. Dial 971-254-3149, conference ID 736-023-979. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us by going online to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing star 6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with their cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email publiccomments@co.tillamook.or.us by 12 p.m. on Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered for online public comment?
We do not, and no, they haven't.
Okay, terrific. So I'd just like to say I'm Commissioner Bell, and I'm the vice chair. I'm sitting in the chair seat for Commissioner Scar, who is joining us remotely today, and she just didn't prefer to chair remotely due to possible technical difficulties. So I'm happy to fill in for her today, and I'm glad she can join us remotely. All right, so we will, I'll invite everybody to sign the guest list, please, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Yamamoto, will you lead us?
Absolutely.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have any non-agenda items today, so we'll jump right into the consent calendar.
Perfect. Madam Chair, this is the annual liquor license renewal applications for Anchorage Motel, Lee's Camp Store, and Manzanita Lighthouse. I guess with that, I would move approval of the consent calendar.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent calendar? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Okay, move right on to item 6. We have Under Sheriff Kelly in the room.
Sure, this
Good morning.
week's. I'll put it up on the phone.
Item 6 is discussion and consideration of an order declaring county-owned property as surplus.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Before you is a request to transfer a trailer and a golf cart. As most people know, I pride myself on, I've been here for 20-some years, so I know when things happen, and I wasn't aware of this. So it sounds like about 10 years ago, there was a partnership between the city and the sheriff's office the city applied for a grant to get a trailer and a golf cart, a small little cargo trailer to hold the golf cart. And the idea was for this to be an education piece for juveniles or new drivers on distracted driving and drunk driving. And this equipment has been housed with the city for several years. And at the time, the city wasn't going to be able to license it and insure it, so the county took on that responsibility. But we haven't been involved in it a lot, but the city is willing to take it back and register it, insure it, and we don't use it and never use it in my recollection. So that's my request, is to transfer this, get it off the county books. The city will take it, which they've had it for 10 years, and register it, insure it. And I'm sure if we ever needed or had an opportunity to use it, we could borrow it if we need to do it. That's all I have, unless you all have questions.
Thank you. I see Treasurer Sean Blanchard just popped on. Sean, did you have a comment or a question?
My only comment is asking that a disposal form is filled out so that we can get it off our books on our end.
Okay.
That would come from the sheriff's office?
That'd be my responsibility, and I thought I have it done, Sean, and I will forward it on to your
Thank you.
office.
So this is not basically surplus. We're transferring this from county ownership to city of Tillamook ownership. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. So, but we utilize the same forms as surplus because it is surplus.
It'll work.
Okay.
Yeah, this is how we've done if we donate a vehicle to the fair or something like that.
Okay, perfect.
It's well, we are dedicating the surplus technically, but what's a little different about this is how we are transferring it is a little more specific.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Commissioner Scar, questions or comments?
No questions. I think it sounds like it's an administrative cleanup item since they have had this equipment for 10 years, I think Under Sheriff Kelly said, so I'm in support.
Thank you for a motion, Madam Chair. In consideration of an order declaring county-owned property as surplus, this is Tillamook County Order number 23-015. I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Item 7 is discussion and consideration of an application to the State of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority for a request for grant proposal number 5620 for Oregon Buys number S-44300-00006073 for the Mobile Health Unit pilot programs to increase access and quality of healthcare services for priority populations. Marlene Putman, good morning.
That's a mouthful.
Good morning. That's a mouthful. I could have made it a little longer. I also have with me Rocky Phillips, who's our public health deputy, and mentioned to her that this would be a great opportunity for her to share and present to the commissioners, to which she responded, I've used that many times with staff when I've asked them to take on additional duties. This would be a great opportunity.
That's
So
perfect.
yes, it is. Anyway, so this is a grant application that was due last Wednesday. We did get health council approval, but could not get it on your agenda until this week. Per normal, if we do submit a grant application prior to commissioner's approval, our understanding is you may not approve it, in which case, if it's awarded to us, we respond to the funder and say, hey, we're going to reject that offer, or we're going to decline the grant if there are questions from the county, at that prior to when we submit it and when the grant actually gets awarded. So hopefully it'll be awarded and that won't be the case, but we're bringing it to you a week later. And we did, as I mentioned, have health council approval to go as the co-applicant for the Federally Qualified Health Center. So I'm going to let Rocky speak to the application and the process. It's a little bit changed with Oregon Health Authority using Oregon Buys for applications, which was new to us, and Rocky and our new administrative specialist did a great job pulling this off using all the new requirements and portal for that. So Rocky, hopefully you can see her. She's in my office because her link wasn't working from her office. So go ahead, Rocky, just speak a little loud.
Yeah, so Oregon Buys, that was fun. Looking forward to doing that again. So this grant opportunity came across our desk, and it was overall $3 million. We have chosen to apply for $250,000, and it really does fall in alignment nicely with our recent community health needs assessment completed in 2022, which identified access to care as a priority area. So the 3 goals for this grant would be to improve access to immunizations, including flu and COVID vaccines for migrant and farm workers by providing vaccines on site at farms and dairies, extending access to care for those experiencing substance use disorder by providing STI and communicable disease screening and connections to services at needle exchange sites, and then also Lastly, to improve access to nutrition services for low-income individuals by providing in-person WIC appointments in North and South Tillamook County. So the $250,000 would allow us to purchase a small mobile unit under 25 feet, roughly the size of a van, to provide these services in person throughout our county and in reach remote areas. So I'm excited about that prospect, and hopefully you guys approve and we are awarded the grant and can move forward with that work.
Thank you, Rob.
It does also have a portion of an FTE.
Oh, yes, I didn't mention that. So it does cover a portion of an FTE for an MA, who will be shared between public health and the clinic. On the clinic side, they would be doing immunizations. The whole focus is increasing access to care, specifically immunizations. And then on the public health side, they would assist with off-site clinics and outreach and mobile events.
Thank you, Rocky. Commissioner Scar, questions, comments?
I think this is great. I know that we got the mobile clinic and then we got a pandemic, and you were not able to really fully develop the programs for the mobile clinic that you had intended and hoped for. So I see this as another step in really, I think, bringing to life the vision that you had prior to the pandemic, and having this mobile clinic really expand the access to care, because it sounds like we're going to go north, we're going to go south, we're going to go potentially to farms themselves to make sure people have access, which I think sounds great. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would concur. This is thinking outside the box and being able to provide services to, especially to residents that may be very remote, in very remote areas, but we do have access problems in both North and South County, and I think this is terrific. Bill, I take it you're in agreement that even though we're looking at this late, if we were to not approve it, it would just decline the grant, although I don't think that's going to happen.
That was my thought. I wondered why we would ever decline it, but if you decided we want to give that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I have a question, just out of curiosity. Who drives the van? Do medical assistants drive these vehicles, or do we have separate drivers, or how does that work?
So that's a perfect question. We were just, when we introduced ourselves, would we talk about the driver? And then you asked the question. So part of the challenge with the larger mobile clinic that is, 40 feet is hiring a driver who can drive that kind of a vehicle, even though it's not required to have a commercial license. So we do have now recently just hired, and he's training for the mobile clinic driver to expand that larger unit north and south. So we require a driver, we train them on intake, they play multiple roles. For this, because it's basically the size of a large truck, I know a lot of people drive crew cabs, long beds here, including me when you have to drive them. It's about that size. So the staff that are staffing the immunization and other type of work can drive that vehicle while they're providing services. There might be a little practice needed to be comfortable if they're not used to driving a large truck or van kind of setup, but I'll let Rocky, if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's pretty much like the nuts and bolts behind it with the small unit, is that more people can drive it and feel comfortable driving it, and we can reach those tight spaces that you just can't with a large unit. Going to remote sites, visiting the actual dairies, getting into smaller parking lots, going to where we have encampments, so that folks who are houseless can come up and get an immunization or a flu vaccine or a COVID vaccine when that season arises. There's a lot more flexibility with it having a small unit, not just in what we can do with it, and services that we can provide, but also with the places that we can reach. So we wouldn't be providing like full-on medical and dental care out of it. That's what that large unit really is intended for, have a full medical and dental suite. This is just a very small, compact, nuts and bolts, just the basics to increase access to those services and that care.
Terrific, thank you. I was at a meeting last night, a community conversation about public safety, and it was at TBCC. Several folks from your department were there. You were well represented, so thank you to them and to you. And one of the issues that we talked about was access. So the timing of this is great. It was all kinds of access and transportation being a big barrier to access. And we talked about the Tillamook County Transportation District, which does a great job, but not everywhere and all the time, and not for people necessarily with mobility issues or people with small children. And so transportation is still a serious access issue in such a remote community as ours. And so I think this sounds great. Thank you.
Ready for motion? Madam Chair, in consideration of an application to the State of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority for a request for grant proposal number 5620 for Oregon Buys, number S-4430000006073 for the Mobile Health Unit Pilot Program to increase access and quality of healthcare services for priority populations. I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Marlene and Rocky.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Commissioners.
See Mr. McCall with us this morning.
We have Dave McCall with us to discuss and consider an order in the matter of the appointment of a member to the Tillamook County Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
So, good morning, Commissioners and everyone else. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee was established as part of Ordinance 4 and is set up to represent various entities and interest groups in the county. There are certain industry representatives on it, like, for example, an industry representing the dairy and farming industry, someone representing construction, some timber industry, I'm blanking on a couple members at large. There are also 2 members who represent the franchise haulers of Tillamook County. These are designated spaces. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee meets 8 or 9 times a year and advises, oversees the department and directs us and acts as a sounding board for a lot of things that they do on a daily basis, and new projects, ongoing projects, budget, all those types of things. And we recently had a resignation. One of the representatives of the franchise haulers left his position and moved to a different position. And so we put the word out to the franchise haulers, Nancy, and Scott Meathy of Great Ecology, Western Oregon, submitted an application, and the other haulers are also in support of this. So we would like to recommend his appointment to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for the term that was previously held by Dave Larmuth, who was also with Recology. And I saw earlier, I think Scott was online, so he's available for you if you would like to ask him any questions or grill him really hardly. Be brutal. Feel free to. He can take it. We've known Scott for several years and have worked with him well, and I think he would be a good representative on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Well, Scott, since you've joined us, would you like to come on and introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Scott Meathy, I'm with Recology. I've been with the company here for 20 years, and I worked with Dave for about 10 of those years, and it would be an honor to be a part of this committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being willing to serve. We're really grateful.
Okay, so who's going to ask the tough questions here?
Go ahead.
Scott, we appreciate very much your ability to serve and wanting to serve. And as I always say in Tillamook County cannot operate without its volunteers, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scar, anything?
I would just echo the words of my fellow commissioners. We really do appreciate our volunteers so much, and Scott, we appreciate your willingness to serve on this committee, so thank you so much.
I'd also like to say thanks to Dave Larmuth for his long-standing service. He many years, much longer than I've been a commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, I think so there was a time when he didn't serve on the committee, but was there in support of different things, because Laura Liebert was the appointed person, and he was there supporting them. When Laura left, he took over a position, but, I mean, his presence with SWAC precedes my hiring by the county, so, you know, I would guess, I think he was with Recology and its predecessors for about 25 years. And I think on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, you know, in different activities, he's at least 15 years he was involved with that. And I'd also like to mention, so Scott, I almost didn't recognize him, because this is summer Scott we're seeing at the moment. But had this been before you a month and a half, 2 months ago, you would have been seeing Winter Scott, in which he also plays the role of Santa Claus. So you can be prepared for that and bring him in to volunteer for that role.
Fabulous, double duty. Well, thank you, Scott, and thanks again to Dave Larmuth, and our best to him in his new opportunity.
Madam Chair, ready for a motion?
We are.
Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of a member to the Tillamook County Solid Waste Advisory Committee, this is order number 23-016, and solid waste order number 23-003, I would move approval.
And I second.
Oh.
Sorry,
Did you
Commissioner.
second?
I did, I just jumped in and seconded. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, the next item is also solid waste, discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of members to the Tillamook County Solid Waste Budget Committee.
So as you know, or people at home may not know, the solid waste department actually functions as a separate service district. It's separated budgetarily wise from the county. We're not part of the general fund. We're even a little separate from being a special revenue fund. We're separated one step further. So we have a separate budget committee, which is composed of the 3 commissioners and 3 lay people. We've had a couple vacancies on that committee from the lay side. And we were very fortunate with our last solicitation. We have 2 people who submitted their applications and have volunteered for this. One of those is Leanne Welch, who was previously the solid waste administrator for the county, so knows the solid waste budget very well. Not so super well for the last couple of years, but she understands what's behind the numbers and things like that. And also Ken Henson has volunteered to serve on that committee, and it's important because Ken is also the chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So he's part of the process when SWAC goes through and reviews the budget and makes recommendations and recommended changes. So it adds an extra layer of involvement and understanding for it. And we found in the past it's always been very valuable to have a SWAC member who served on the budget committee as well, because they have kind of a transitional role and more knowledge with it. And I think it helps the other members better understand things. So with this, we would like, I know that Ken Henson said and I see he has joined as well. Leanne was not able to attend, but Ken is there. So we wholeheartedly recommend these 2 appointments to the Solid Waste Budget Committee, and hope that you will, and we might try to find a more difficult, hard question for Ken.
Good morning, Ken. Would you like to join us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
And thanks for being willing to serve on the Solid Waste Budget Committee.
My pleasure. I've been a community member and business owner in South Tillamook County for the better part of 20 years. So I believe strongly in giving back to our local community and being as involved as I can be.
I'm grateful for your service, and also for your service as the chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. I know Ken and Leanne both very well, and they're going to do a great job. And again, we appreciate our volunteers so much.
Commissioner Scar?
Agreed. Very much appreciate the service of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So thank you for that, Ken, and for being willing to serve on the Budget Committee. The solid waste department is one of the county's special revenue funds. They do not receive general fund revenue. They operate essentially as a private enterprise would, only as a partner of the county. So these committees are extremely, extremely important because the oversight of that financial piece, the oversight of the building of the budget, that is separate as a special revenue fund. So while we do hear their budget as county commissioners as part of the process, there is a layer between us and that committee. So we appreciate that.
Terrific. And also, I'm grateful that Leanne Welch is willing to serve. She'll just be an excellent member of the Budget Committee. So thank you both. Thanks, Ken, and thanks to Leanne for your willingness to serve. And Ken, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Ready for a motion. Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of the appointment of members to the Tillamook County Solid Waste Budget Committee, order number 23-017, and Solid Waste Service District number 23-004, I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. I voted twice. Motion passes. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. All right. Item number 10 is discussion and consideration of a letter of commitment for Bayside Commons housing development. And Commissioner Scar is going to lead this item. And we also have Sarah Apsher with us in person.
We do, and I think I also saw TJ in the room. So I think if there are questions, we're well represented. So Sarah, did you want to carry something on this one, or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I can start, just kind of give a little bit of a background, Commissioner. Thank you. So as you know, Bayside Commons is a workforce housing project that is currently part of, turn it off.
Or just push it away from you.
Thank you. Is that good? Is that better?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bayside Gardens Commons, it's a lot to say, is a workforce housing project that is currently underway in Nehalem, UGB. This was one of our funding recipients from the Multi-Housing Grant Fund that TJ and the Housing Commission have been working on. To help them with their project with financial support, they are also working with HUD. And so I am taking the lead on the review process with HUD to get funding from HUD, including receipt of vouchers for housing. There's an environmental review process that is required as part of HUD's process that falls then to the local jurisdiction. Part of this process will be me completing a public notice and doing some other pieces with HUD to get their vouchers and their funding to them. Because the county has also committed to funding part of their project through the Multi-Family Housing Grant Fund, what HUD is asking for is a letter of commitment from the county to confirm that those funds will be given to Bayside Commons for this project. And that would be Darren Murphy. And so Commissioner Scar and I visited with representatives from HUD over the last week and a half as we were maneuvering through those pieces they are asking the county to do. One of them is this letter of commitment, and so we are before you today requesting signature so that we can give this to HUD to further Mr. Murphy's process for this project.
Thank you. Commissioner Scar, anything to add?
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the full explanation. And this, I think, is just a case of one of those pieces where I always say the wheels of government turn slowly, and we're pushing them uphill, and they're square and they're made of stone. I think that's sort of what necessitates this letter. We are working through the contract with Darren Murphy for the Bayside Commons project, and we just don't have the signed contract on the timeline that HUD is looking to confirm our commitment. So while we as commissioners have already awarded essentially these grants, but the contract itself is not signed. So this letter is just to let them know, yes, we are still intending to award the funds to Darren Murphy and the Bayside Commons project. So wheels of government, thank you.
Thank you. So for folks who are watching, can you, Sarah, or TJ, can somebody just talk us through the project, remind us what the project is?
Sure. So we actually are just wrapping up all of the permitting review processes to issue the building permits for this project as well. So this project consists of 6 fourplexes that will be located on a residentially zoned property off of Bayside Gardens Road. And so they've got a great layout. It definitely is a nice mix of housing that provides a low-density residential appeal and feel. So it's not something like a large apartment building, which, you know, for the neighbors and others definitely complements the character of the area. They've got amenities like a clubhouse and some other things that will be going in. They've got a beautiful landscaping plan. And so this will be workforce housing that will meet our AMI threshold. So we'll probably see them coming back for a property tax exemption. But part of that, with that low income affordability piece, is the option or the opportunity to work with HUD for voucher issuance. And one of the things that I think that's great about this project is there was the right piece of property in the right location with the right zoning to where we actually had a straight path forward with clear and objective standards to get this permitted quickly. So really excited to see this project take off and to be a part of it and to help support this project moving forward, given our need for housing.
That is great, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add, this particular project, I think I started talking to Darren Murphy about this, it was before I left CARE, maybe as far back as 2018. He has had this piece of property and just been waiting for the right opportunity to develop it. And so it's just really exciting to see this happening. I think this is where some of our multifamily rental funding is really helping our local folks. So people who are in our community who have been waiting for the right time, the incentives from the county, as we heard, he's going to use the property tax exemption as well. So these incentives are making the difference, which is, again, just a really exciting piece of this particular project when we've looked and said, how can we as Tillamook County make this area developer friendly? How do we support developers so that we are where they want to do the work? And how do we help the local folks here who really want to provide housing be able to do that? And I think this is a great example.
And this is a great example of federal government and county government and private industry partnering together to solve one of the biggest issues that we have in Tillamook County, and that is housing. And please inform me if I'm incorrect, but this money that the county is using is coming from transient lodging tax fee, a short-term rental fee.
That is correct, Commissioner. And I'm sorry, I keep pulling this. It's habit. It's habitual. So the multifamily housing grant, which is where this money's coming from, is actually the revenue from the short-term rental operator license fee. So another great partnership of looking at our industry to help us address our long-term rental needs in our county.
And again, this is another area that I feel that Tillamook County is a leader in the state of Oregon, thinking outside the box, asking our short-term rental operators, but again, mostly the visitors that come to Tillamook County to assist the county in making sure that we can provide housing for our residents, people that want to move here and work here. So again, this is outside the box thinking, and I am absolutely in full support.
So Sarah, you mentioned that it's workforce housing, but also if there are HUD vouchers involved, will it also be affordable housing?
Yes, that is correct, Commissioner.
That's great. That really is terrific. I live in North County, as you know, and I'm familiar with that neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood, and it's a wonderful placement for a multi-family complex like that. It's terrific, and I'm certainly supportive, fully supportive. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Sure. In consideration of a letter of commitment for Bayside Commons Housing Development, I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Thank you. So Sarah has the next item as well. Discussion and consideration of an order in the matter of reconsideration of a request for conditional use approval for a 19-site recreational campground on approximately 18-acre portion of a 58.51-acre parcel. The proposed campground is located within the rural residential 2-acre RR2 zoned portion of the property accessed via Floyd Avenue, a local county access road, and designated as tax lot 600 of Section 6, Township 4 South, Range 10 West of the Willamette Meridian in Tillamook County, Oregon.
Thank you, Commissioner Val. Melissa Yank, who is the project planner for this process, is also here to join us, and because she has been the one doing all of the hard work and the heavy lift on this, we'll go ahead and let her visit with you about the proposal and the request. Thank you.
Hi, Melissa.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for letting me join you this morning. So the order you have before you today is a result of the March 16th hearing. Was the remand hearing we heard on this matter. This was the second time you guys saw this request. It was the voluntary remand of the Oregon Treehouse Conditional Use Project. You did vote at that meeting to approve this request. The findings that have been prepared were put together by the applicant's attorneys as well as reviewed by the county attorneys for appropriate findings. So what you have before you is both the order reflecting the conditions of approval as amended as you suggested during the March 16th meeting.
Thank you, Melissa. Commissioner Scar, do you have any questions or comments?
I would just really want to thank Melissa for all her work on this. I know this has been a huge project. This was an interesting one because it was a voluntary remand. So for our listeners and watchers out there, typically what will happen is we have a project, we approve the project, it gets appealed to LUBA, and typically LUBA says, here are the areas where you need more information. Here is what, we agree, if they disagree. If they say, if they do remand it, they normally tell us why they're remanding it, which gives us an area of focus as we revisit the decision. This one, because it was a voluntary remand, really left it open for any and all pieces of the decision to be revisited. So that meant a lot of work for Melissa as we went through this, because we could not focus in and say, here's the one thing that LUBA was concerned about. We had to say they could be concerned about anything. So while the voluntary remand in some ways was a really good process because it was a dialogue between the community and the developer to really say the community had some concerns and the developer said, I hear those concerns and I want to address them. Rather than wait for LUBA to tell me which ones I have to, I want to address what my community is concerned about. So there was some really, valuable process in it in terms of that dialogue with the community, but it also made it a challenge because everything was on the table once again. So I just appreciate the work, and I think anyone who takes the time to read through the findings will find them complete and detailed in every area. So thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing to move this forward so that we can hopefully get it built. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scar.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, and this is our second bite at the apple. I thought our first bite at the apple was the correct decision, but with the concerns that we heard from the community and the willingness of the applicant to go back and really tweak the proposal, so I think it's an even better proposal at this point. So again, 3 commissioners voted unanimously for approval. This is going to be a great project for the Terra Del Mar region and going to bring more people to Tillamook County. But the way it's set up, I think it's going to be great. There's great access for emergency evacuation up the hill if need be, with roads and things moving up there. So I think this is a win-win for Tillamook County, for the local residents, and for the applicant. So I am in full support here.
Thank you, Commissioner. I concur with my fellow commissioners. I think it was a solid application the first time we saw it, and better the second time. And the applicant has proven themselves willing to work with the community and be good community partners. They voluntarily put in fire mitigation systems and volunteered to be a tsunami evacuation center. And I feel really good about it. So I felt good about it both times. And I appreciate your work on this, Melissa, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ready for a motion? Madam Chair, in consideration of an order in the matter of the reconsideration of a request for conditional use approval for a 19-site recreational campground on an approximately 18-acre portion of a 58.51-acre parcel The proposed campground is located within the rural residential 2-acre RR2 zone portion of the property, accessed via Floyd Avenue, a county local access road, and designated as tax lot number 600 of Section 6, Township 4 South, Range 10 West of the Willamette Meridian, Tillamook County, Oregon. I would move approval.
And I would second.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12 is discussion and consideration of a professional services agreement with CHA Consulting, Inc. for the fiscal year 2022 Environmental Protection Agency Brownfield Community-Wide Assessment Project. And we have with us this morning TJ Fiorelli. Good morning.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Thank you. You have before you today a professional services agreement following the mandatory 2-week protest period. This grant was awarded conditionally to the consultant just 2 weeks ago. I want to remind the commissioners that we went through a competitive process with 3 different grant proposals. This one was quantitatively and quite honestly qualitatively certainly the superior project or the proposal that we were very happy to receive. I did meet already with the consultant, and we are going to hit the ground running following the approval, hopefully, of this grant today. So I don't know if you have any questions, but this is really a revisit of something we've talked about a couple of times now.
Can you just give us a brief rundown of what this project is and where it is in the county?
Absolutely. This is an assessment grant that will cover everywhere throughout the county. The entire county is qualified. If there is a property that had prior environmental contamination or even the potential presence of environmental contamination, this gives us the opportunity to bring an environmental consultant to the site to look underground and find out if there truly are any concerns and to tell us how great of a concern those are, if at all. And in most cases, what we find is that the perception is oftentimes much greater than the actual risk. What this allows us to do is begin to unlock properties throughout the county for really important services, jobs and housing, as well as recreation opportunities. And the best part about this is oftentimes these brownfield properties have existing assets already underground in terms of infrastructure and other things that are already readily available to allow us to actually get development on the ground much quicker. So I'm very excited about this project, and I look forward to working with our consultant and our Brownfield Advisory Committee, which will include many different individuals throughout the county, including Michelle Bradley from the Port, Chris Giola from Environmental Health, and some other folks from Public Health as well.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Scar?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is an exciting moment. So we had the opportunity, gosh, I think it's been over a year ago, I know, because a year and a half or more, because we had this grant opportunity brought to us by Colpac, which is our local economic development district, a great partner for us, and they said, this grant is open, are there any counties that want to apply? And so we said, that sounds fabulous, and right about that time, TJ joined our staff, and he has a background in this work and was able to help us create a successful grant application. So as all things with government, the wheels turn slowly, but so this has been in the making for over a year for us to really get started with these assessments. The other exciting piece is that Colpac is continuing to support with this. They have received a cleanup grant. So in the event that we, through our assessments, discover there are some areas that do warrant cleanup, there will be a direct path to move forward by reaching out and applying for those cleanup funds through Colpac, if I understand correctly. So it gives us the opportunity to not only know a particular piece of property has an issue, but to move forward in a timely manner if the property owner is so inclined with cleaning up and making it available. So there's just, it's one of those moments in time that you hope for that we set out today.
Terrific. Well, I'm fully supportive. We talked about this in detail a couple of weeks ago when you were here, and I think it's a really exciting opportunity for Tillamook County. So thank you.
Commissioner Scarlett, twice you've mentioned that the village government moves slowly. I tend to say that I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But in this instance, that is true. I mean, and TJ, we appreciate very much all of your work on this project. Making a determination as to whether a piece of property is developable, not having any environmental problems, because of our lack of usable land in Tillamook County. This is an important process, especially when you throw housing into that mix. This is just a great step forward. Appreciate all your hard work on this. And again, I need complete support.
Terrific. I was thinking about an example. There's a business owner in Lincoln County who came to me recently and said that they would like to relocate their business to Tillamook County, and the place where they currently are is the Jennifer Steers Glass Studio in Taft in Lincoln City, right on 101. It's a glass blowing studio, and she said that the owner, Kelly, said that it was a brownfield project. And it had been an old defunct gas station and a mess, and through the Brownsfield process, they turned it into something wonderful that it attracts people from all over the place, and it's art, it's beautiful, it's successful, and so I have that in my mind as you know, something that's currently contaminated and unusable can become something beautiful and economically viable through this process. So. Or housing maybe. So I think it's terrific. Thank you.
Madam Chair, ready for a motion?
Yes.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a professional services agreement with CHA Consulting, Inc. for the fiscal year 2022 Environmental Protection Agency Brownfield Community-Wide Assessment Project, I would move approval.
I will second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, TJ. All right, item 13 is discussion and consideration of change order number 2 to contract number 4952 with Sheldon Oil, formerly Sheldon Oil Company, Inc. for the cardstock fuel purchase project. We have with us Tillamook County Treasurer Sean Blanchard.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Thank you. Yes, so this is extending the contract and actually changing the name because Sheldon Oil Company, Inc. sold to what is now Sheldon Oil. And this is extending the contract to June 30th, 2023. So I'm assuming we'll also be coming before you again in another month or so.
Okay, perfect. Commissioners? Commissioner Scar, do we have any questions?
No questions. It seems fairly straightforward and a good service for the county to have access to with the card lock so that fuel is available when needed, day or night. I assume that this is for our Sheriff's Department, our Public Works. Actually, Public Works keeps some of their own fuel on site, but our Sheriff's Department certainly needs access 24/7.
Correct. And Community Development, Assessor, several departments.
Terrific.
I concur. All right, ready for a motion?
Yes.
Madam Chair, in consideration of change order number 2 to contract number 4952 with Sheldon Oil, formerly Sheldon Oil Company, Inc. for the cardstock fuel purchase project, I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Item 14 is discussion and consideration of a prevailing wage rate contract with the Saunders Company, Inc. for construction for the Kiwanda Corridor Project, Cape Kiwanda Parking Lot and Restroom Project. Chief of Staff Rachel Haggerty is leading this.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rachel.
2 weeks ago, the board approved a notice of intent to award a contract to the Saunders Company for the Cape Kiwanda Parking Lot and Restroom Project, which is the first component of the larger Kiwanda Corridor Project. The low bid was in the amount of $5,538,800. The scope includes a new public restroom. The old restroom will be demolished and the new one will be relocated further to the west, closer to the ramp. Shower foot wash facilities, 420 feet of the new multi-use path, which at this location will serve as a trailhead with the southern extent ending at Bob Straub State Park. 7,000 square foot civic overlook area on the west side of the parking lot, reconfiguring the 55,000 square foot parking lot for better traffic flow, pedestrian access through the parking lot, and improve stormwater, landscaping, utilities, improve garbage and recycling facilities, and other amenities such as EV charging, benches, improved wayfinding, landscaping, etc. Upon execution of this contract today, we can begin work. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for this Friday with the goal of implementing the parking lot reconstruction in three phases developed to mitigate and minimize any impacts to visitors to the area and not closing the parking lot in its entirety at any one point in time. So we are moving forward with implementing the construction of the new restroom foundation immediately, and then concluding before summer starts in July. It will start, but at least the peak use of the parking lot. And then we'll go on hiatus for the summer and resume work in around October, November, and proceed with phase 2 of the parking lot reconstruction, which is the north side of the parking lot. So the north side will be closed, the south side will be open, with that phase concluding next March. And then the new north side will be open to visitors, and we'll work on reconstructing the south side, with all of it being completed by next June. We are finalizing our outreach plan now. We're working on getting some nice banners with the renderings and the project schedule to put on the site throughout construction so people can see what's going on. Working on press releases with the Pacific City Sun and other media, email list, updating the website, developing a QR code that people can easily access. And so we're finalizing that and hoping to roll that out by the 1st of May. The contract is ready for your consideration, and it's being largely funded by transient lodging tax dollars, with almost $500,000 coming from days parking revenues from the Cape Kiwanda area, not other parks areas. And we're hoping to receive $750,000 from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department's local government grant fund, and we'll know that by the end of the year. And if we receive that, that will offset the TLT dollars that we're having. Ready for consideration.
Thank you, Rachel. Bill?
I've reviewed a lot of contracts in my day, and it's not very many that I see that are for, $5.5 million. So I want to assure the board that I paid particular attention to this
Thank
one.
you, Bill.
And while I was kind of shocked by the number, and I looked at the breakdown and how things cost, like $500,000 just to mobilize, $1 million for the bathroom, etc. It's quite a project. I haven't seen contracts, very few. In fact, I can't remember any I've reviewed that have this kind of a scope. So it's a pretty big deal in terms of just how much is involved.
Thank you, Bill.
Well,
Commissioner Scar, questions, comments?
We talked about this quite a bit when we entered the 7-day period, I think a week ago, and so I won't say a whole lot other than it's a very, very exciting time for us to be moving forward with this project. I know a lot of planning has gone into this, a lot of work with the community to determine what should be here, how it should look, and how do we do it without completely disrupting their worlds. And so I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, that Rachel has done and that the community has done, and really look forward to this project happening.
Thank you.
I agree. This is exciting for South County. It is. We've been working on this for a decade or so, or longer, and this is the opportunity, the first opportunity to really break ground. It is. This is really perfect. You can tell by this description that Rachel just gave that her heart and soul is in this. She's put in untold hours on just this project. This is the start of the renewal of the Pacific City Cape Kiwanda area. Probably one of the most used beachfront areas in the state of Oregon. It is. Its reputation is statewide, worldwide. at this point, and it's overloved by tourists. It is. So tourism management, that's kind of what this is all about, making sure that we give our visitors the best experience possible while mitigating the issues that we have with permanent residents. And so this is the start of something really huge, which is terrific. And it's broken down into phases so that we don't interfere as much as possible with the peak summer months that will be coming to the city soon. So it's just a plus, win-win-win for everyone involved. It is. And so I appreciate all the work, especially what Rachel has done on this, and Bill. Looking at this contract, being one of the larger contracts that you've seen, to me that's marked that we're doing something good. We're not using any general fund money on this, which is so thank you everyone for all your work on this, and let's keep it going.
Thank you. Speaking of the wheels of government moving slowly, I was trying to remember when the Cape Wanda or the Pacific City Master Plan, the Pacific City Plan, the first one started. Was it 2014?
So I started in March of 2015, and this was one of my first projects, which was the Cape Kiwanis Master Plan.
Right.
And that took about a year, so I think that was around 2016. Before me, there was at least one or two transportation studies. And Pacific City Woods has a community plan, so community development has been involved with that.
And a transportation.
And a transportation plan, yeah. And different intersection studies. So there was several plans pre-2015. And then Cape Kiwanis Master Plan, which started to look at this resident tourism interface, which I think was new to the plan. And then the two strategies in the Cape Kiwanis Master Plan was a parking study to dive in deep to that, because this was a very high level plan, and then a parking fee. So those two, and some other elements were implemented, and then you recall 2 years ago now, I came to you to take most of the remaining elements of the Cape Kiwanis Master Plan and make them one project, which I think was good at the time, but now that it's such a big project. But they are also integrally related, that you can't develop one in a silo. And so I think we really knocked it out of the park, hiring Murray Smith, our consulting team, which is a very large team of disciplined consultants. Because we're talking about transportation, a parking lot, a park, a multi-use path, day use areas, stormwater infrastructure. I mean, there's just so many different wayfinding, so many different elements, and they're able to pull the whole team together, which we really needed for this project, now known as Consor. So we just have a great team, and there's a steering committee of county staff and others who are also helping lead this ship on the county's behalf. So it's a great team effort, as well as the Pacific City Woods Parking Advisory Committee that meets generally monthly throughout the year. Provides guidance on the project. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for
That
your
was a long-winded answer to
I
my
appreciate
plan.
it. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate your leadership. Rachel's the project manager of this project, and you're a fabulous leader, and all of our partners say so. And I was following this as the Pacific City Master Plan way back when I worked at the Headlight Herald, and so it's 8 years later. So that's the answer. It's 8 years later that we're actually going to break ground on something. So it is very exciting. It's exciting for the county. It's exciting for the local community. And I'll just remind folks that the reason the county is investing in Pacific City is that it's not a city. If it were a city, it would develop its own parks and parking lots, but it's not a city. So the county's responsible for it. And we have this sort of, this interesting relationship with TLT where we get frustrated that we're limited in the ways that we can spend. We're limited by state statute in the ways that we can spend 70% of the TLT that we receive here in Tillamook County. This is one way that we can spend it that we feel great about. It's a terrific investment. It's a terrific long-term investment. And so it's, yeah, I think it's terrific. I think it's great that we are also using the parking revenue for this project, and better yet, if we can get grants to support it. So it's really exciting that it's starting. So kudos, bravo, yeah. All right.
Madam Chair, ready for a motion?
Please.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a prevailing wage contract with Saunders Company, Inc. for construction for the for the Kiwanda Corridor Project, Cape Kiwanda Parking Lot and Restroom Project, I would move approval.
And I would second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, Rachel also has the next item, 15, discussion and consideration of amendment number 6 to agreement number 4994 with the Oregon Department of Corrections South Fork Forest Camp Work Programs work order for the Shiloh Levee cleanup and tree removal project.
Tillamook County is responsible for maintaining the Shiloh Levee, which is a 1,200-foot-long levee just south of the Highway 101 Wilson River Bridge. As you know, there's a lot of momentum around getting the levee repaired. We have several funding sources in this new energy and development of how to repair it. There has been a desire to ensure its stability before we repair it, to remove the willows that are compromising the integrity of the levee. In considering options to complete that work, we have landed on using the South Fork camp up the Wilson. We have an umbrella contract with them, contract number 4994, that we execute amendments under. Typically the Parks Department is the one who is the department that has used the South Fork camp the most. So this lands us on Amendment 6 for this task order that allows the South Fork crew to go up and remove willows along the levee later this summer. So it is ready for consideration.
Thank you. Commissioner Scar, questions, comments?
I'm pleased to see this moving forward. I know that we've put a lot of conversation and time and attention recently into the Shiloh Levee, and just reminding the community it was built, I believe, in 1952 by the Army Corps of Engineers. Ownership was then transferred to Tillamook County, which puts us in a place where it is our responsibility to maintain it, and ultimately, as it is coming to an age of needing repair and replacement, that's ours too. So this is something that hopefully will extend its life while we are working through finding the $4.5 million, I believe it is, to do the complete fix. So, you know, using the South Fork crew is a great opportunity. I know that the South Fork camp is a place where there are a lot of folks who are learning skills that they will take outside of their incarceration, and having this sort of project for them, it's landscaping skills, it's work skills, it can allow them, I believe, earn time off so that they can get out of their incarceration sooner by really, you know, giving back to their community and showing their interest in starting their life out differently. So I think it's a great win-win in that way. It helps us, and it also is a great work program out of that particular institution. So I am in support.
Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Scar, and all this is very difficult. She covers all the bases. I too am in complete support of this project.
Terrific. So
if I could interject, I do want to clarify the ownership of the levee. So the levee lies on private property, formerly owned by Shiloh. I forget the new Param? I'm not sure how you say it.
Don't remember either.
It's a new company, and it lies within the Oregon Department of Transportation right away. Okay. So we don't actually own the property, but we have easements that allow us to work on it for maintenance.
And we're legally responsible for the maintenance thereof.
Correct, but we do not own any of this. We own the maintenance, but we don't own the property. So just a point of clarification.
That doesn't sound fair.
That comes up.
It doesn't.
Talk to your former board of commissioners from 1952.
From 1950, before I was born. Barely.
So I have a question, maybe you can answer, Rachel. I would have thought that willows growing along the levee would help stabilize it, but that must not be the case. So could you talk about
It
that?
can create erosion
Okay.
around it. I mean, if they are just there, yes, but since water interacts with the willows, it can cause them to tip in, which then pulls a part of the levee, or
Okay.
just create scouring around the willows.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks. Okay, we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of amendment number 6 to agreement number 4994 with the Oregon Department of Corrections South Fork Forest Camp, work programs, work order for the Shiloh Levee cleanup and tree removal project, I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Rachel. All right, Rachel has number 16 as well, discussion and consideration of a letter of intent to purchase real property from Jerry L. Drury for tax foreclosed county-owned property previously offered at the February 13th, 2023 land sale auction, parcel 3, township 3S, range 10 west, section 11, tax lot 200.
This is a really beautiful property on Sand Lake Road. It had 4 structures on it when the county acquired it, and we actually had some squatters on the property, and there was a lengthy eviction process. A lot of help through the Public Works Department and Solid Waste Department, extended thanks to them cleaning these structures up. They coordinated the asbestos testing, AVRLs, equipment on and off site, and so we got through the cleanup process last summer, and then we offered this property up for auction in February. The minimum bid was $348,000. We received no bids, and so it carried on, presumably into the next auction. But we received this letter of intent from Mr. Drury in the amount of $295,800, which is the 85% minimum that you can accept in between land sale auctions. So it's ready for consideration. He is requesting the purchase by deed, so we would not be carrying this under contract, which is even better news. So upon your approval of this, I would work to execute the deed for Mr. Drury. And I have the authority to do that under a prior action by the board, so you will not be seeing this again upon your approval today.
Thank you. Commissioner Scar?
No questions. We have seen a number of these come through since the land sale auction, and I think it's great when we can get them off of our books and back into the appropriate and active use in the community.
I absolutely agree. I mean, and this is a big one, $295,000. It's going to be basically a cash deal, putting it back on the tax rolls. This is terrific because it was a problem piece of property. It was. There was squatters on it, and things were not good. I would drive by it almost every day. It was not a happy situation out there. I'm glad that someone feels that this is, and it is a beautiful piece of property. It's in a great location. So I'm glad that someone has come forward and sees a vision for this property, whatever they're going to do with it. And again, I am in complete support here. Rachel, thank you for all your work on this.
As am I, in support, and I agree, it's a gorgeous piece of property, and it's so heartening to see it cleaned up, because it was a mess. And I'm pleased that Mr. Drury wants to purchase it, is purchasing it, and I think it's great, but also I want to thank the Solid Waste Department for their massive efforts in cleanup of that property, and also presumably community development and the sheriff's office and everybody who was involved in that lengthy process to move the squatters off of the property. And I think it's just worth repeating that when we have a public sale auction, there's a minimum price that's established by the assessed value. And if it's not sold at the auction, it can be sold thereafter for 85% of that price. So people who are paying attention have an opportunity to get property for a good price.
I know you were probably thinking of it, but just misstated. We set the minimum bid price on the real market value.
Thank you.
That's with the assessor's office.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. That's true. Okay. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a letter of intent to purchase real property from Jerry L. Drury for tax foreclosed county-owned property previously offered at the February 13, 2023 land sale auction, parcel number 3, Township 3S, Range 10 West, Section 11, Tax Lot 200. I would move approval.
And I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. All right. We are on to board concerns. My fellow commissioners have board concerns they want to talk about today?
One, if I may. So I know you've heard me talk ad nauseum about the No Fisheries FEMA buyout. 2 Wednesdays ago, I think it was, we had the first of several meetings put on by FEMA at the Port of Tillamook Bay, the officers' mess. We had well over 150 people attend that meeting. I did not hear one voice in support of what FEMA was doing here. But this is going to have tremendous, huge impact on Tillamook County. I'm not going to go into all the details because you've heard me talk about this ad nauseum. But James Scott videotaped the entire meeting, and that video is now available on her website, James Scott Video Productions, and it's also available currently on the front page of the Community Development website on the Tillamook County site. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the huge implications on Tillamook County, what FEMA has planned, we're in the final NEPA process, and so we do need people to really get on board with the county. We're sharing this video statewide with all 36 Oregon counties. We've had a lot of response already from counties across the state wanting to be involved, because and again, I've been talking about this for 7 or 8 years, but now that it's really starting to come to fruition, people are finally understanding how much this is going to affect them. And so they are concerned. Commissioners from across the state are concerned. So this is something that if you would like, please go to jamesscottvideoproductions.com or go to the Community Development website. Watch the meeting. You're going to hear lots of comments from a lot of different people about the implications that it's going to have for properties that they own. And this is a huge deal for Tillamook County. So now is one of our last opportunities to provide input here. So I'm hoping people will take the opportunity to watch the video and become involved. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to follow up on that. Will Chappell from the Headlight Herald was at the meeting also and wrote about it, so it's also in the Headlight Herald, and there's an article on the Tillamook County Pioneer about it. Paul Fournier, who works part-time for the Sheriff's Office, wrote an article for the Pioneer about that meeting. So there are lots of places that people can read about that meeting. And I had the opportunity to meet with Sarah Absher, who's still here, last week on Friday, and talk about the county's plan moving forward, because we have to submit public comments to FEMA by the 5th, so it's a short time period. And, you know, just in case folks who are listening think, hey, wait a minute, I didn't hear about that meeting. We didn't hear about that meeting until a week before it happened, because FEMA didn't publish it. They didn't, who knows why, but it was a surprise to all of us. We knew about it a week before it happened. I didn't actually get invitations to the meeting. I heard about it from EDC, so that's how much it was not publicized. So it was a real testimony to our community that over 100 people showed up. You know, with such short notice and lack of publication from FEMA, over 100 people showed up, and you know, people representing fishing, forestry, farming, tourism, construction, real estate. You know, people were there from all over in our county, and it really is a big deal. So I was heartened in the meeting with Sarah on Friday to hear about the county's plans for putting together a response, a public comment response, and And it's so, just so people are encouraged also, as I was, to know that there are groups working on the response for how would this potentially impact ports? How will it potentially impact housing? How will it potentially impact farming, etc. So there's a lot of work being done on that front, which doesn't mean it's being done for you. So please do educate yourself about the situation, and please do respond to FEMA, because they'll pay attention to these public comments. They have to. So I don't, they have to go through this process, right? Yeah, they have to go through the process. So we're, it's all hands on deck now. It's Commissioner Yamamoto said he and Sarah Absher have been working on this for years, but now it's reached a critical point. So you'll just be hearing a lot more about it. Yeah. You're welcome. Commissioner Scar?
Yeah, I'll just chime in on that. I was not able to make that meeting, but I have been watching the video and just catching up with what exactly FEMA said and what exactly comments should address. And it was interesting to me that, as people would say, this is going to impact my farming, FEMA would say, can you give me specific information? Can you give me a financial impact, or can you give me an actual physical impact it's going to have? And so I think as people are hearing us say, please, make comment, please do watch the video and listen carefully to what FEMA is asking for, because as they do this review, it is a very governmental review, and there will be, we can all say I hate it, but I don't think that's going to have the impact that it will have if we write and say I am a property owner of riverfront property. The new would mean I could not build, it just very specific, I think, is going to be an important piece as well. So do watch the video, and then think about your situation and where this may impact you, and get comments in for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification, because they did ask repeatedly for data and specific to impacts, economic impacts, socioeconomic impacts, etc. So because Sarah's still here, I want to ask if you want to make a comment before we wrap up the subject.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. Sarah Absher, Community Development Director, for the record. So yes, scoping comments are due by May 5th. So all good points all of you have shared this morning. So thank you for that. And really, to speak to Commissioner Scar's point, what FEMA is interested in understanding is what are the social and economic impacts going to be for implementation of the regulations that are resulting from the biological opinion written by NIPS. So those include an array of serious development prohibitions that will impact any landowner who is within the 100-year floodplain. So, really thinking about how your property will be impacted not only today, but potentially for future use down the road. With that, the comment link portal will also be posted on the community development page. So along with the meeting link for viewers who want to watch that meeting, we will make sure that link is there. I am meeting with the Special Districts of Oregon tomorrow morning. They have invited me to their meeting. So there is this huge coalition and a lot of movement that is happening at this time, and we are all working together to compile comments to share with FEMA so that they really understand the devastating impacts that implementation of this biological opinion is going to have on our county. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Commissioners, further concerns? Commissioner Scar?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to chat briefly about the Short-Term Rental Advisory Committee meeting from yesterday. It was a 6-hour-long meeting. This committee is working really, really hard to really come up with recommendations for us to help address the community livability issues around short-term rentals. They're working hard. I mean, there are differing opinions on this committee. There's a process where everyone gets to speak their piece. There's a process where they use colored cards for voting to say how close are we to consensus. Because consensus is the goal, and when they cannot achieve consensus, they continue talking until it's determined that everyone has really said everything they need to say, and then we agree that there will be the majority vote, which will be explained, and a minority seminary opinion that will also be explained. So I just really encourage people, if this issue is one that you're feeling a lot of energy around, maybe it's angst because either you are a short-term rental operator or you are the neighbors of short-term rental operators, and you just can't see how there could possibly be a solution. I encourage you to read the materials from these meetings, listen to the recordings from these meetings, and really understand how in-depth all of these folks are going in their thinking and in their compromising, because it really is a great process. And we look forward to coming out with a recommendation that will then be put in front of the commissioners. And as the commissioners, of course, we will have 2 hearings where we will be able to really dig into the recommendation as well as hear public comments specifically related to that. So I just really want people to know that we are working hard, and I say we, but really it's this committee, so that we can move forward with the intention of looking at that pause on the 1st of July and hopefully being able to lift the pause and implement a new ordinance. So commissioners, I hope that you'll be able to take some time to listen to those recordings as well. Yesterday's recording took on some of the very contentious issues around growth management tools, which are things like, would we consider a cap? Would we consider a distance or density restriction? Would we consider transferring or not transferring permits? So these are big issues that have a lot of concern, and the group did a great job with them yesterday. So if those are what are scaring you out there, listeners and commissioners, things that we just should know to get everybody's full thought process, those recordings would be a great way to dig into that.
And will you remind us again where people can find the recordings?
Absolutely. They are also on the community development webpage. So if you go to the county website, co.tillamook.or.us, and you go up to the word government, and a drop-down list of all the departments will come up for you. You can go to community development. When you hit their homepage on the left-hand side, there will be a button for short-term rental, and that committee work is all under that tab. So it's available for everyone to take a look. There's a lot of material there.
Thank you. Did you have anything you want to say about that?
No, thank you, Commissioner.
Okay.
It was a good meeting.
Good. Yeah, 6 hours. Do you have more?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do. We have at least one more, and then we will be scheduling sometime, hopefully, with some upcoming board briefings where I can start preparing you for those 2 public hearings that will take place late May and mid-June. So we're finalizing those hearing dates, as you know, as well. And we'll get some public notices out for that, in addition to the committee notices.
Terrific. Okay.
I would just like to, so I attended remotely yesterday, and it was a very interesting 6-hour meeting, and I agree with Commissioner Scar's assessment of just how much they're digging in, but I would also like to give Sarah props for her convening and facilitation of this group and keeping it on track, and personalities and tone that can, ebb and flow. She did a really, really good job of facilitating the meetings.
Bravo. Okay.
And the object is to try to avoid litigation. It's as you guys know, we've already been received a tort claim, not a tort claim, a LUBA, notice of intent to appeal the LUBA, and attorneys have been contacting Joel and I, and kind of preparing us for what their arguments may be if the ordinance doesn't come out the way they think it ought to. So that's the great thing from my perspective about the committee and everybody's involvement is maybe just keeping my fingers crossed, something will eventually come from the committee before the board as a result of your public hearings that maybe not everybody's in love with, but maybe everybody can tolerate it enough that they don't feel the need to take it to the circuit court and LUBA and all that. It's it's happened in other jurisdictions on, I think, both sides of this, so that's commendable too.
Well, I think what I'm hearing then is that our public hearing should be done in like 15 minutes or so.
They're gonna need a separate room.
Yeah. As I recall, Commissioner Yamamoto, you participated in the first round of public hearings on it, and they were certainly not even what.
They were raucous.
Yeah, that
They
was
were.
15 years ago, I
It was.
suspect, and
It was.
we had roomfuls then. But that has been obviously a really good program that has resulted from that. It's been really a good thing, but it was contentious then, and it's going to be.
It still is.
Yeah.
So, thank you. And I was just kidding about 15 minutes. These are going to be long public hearings, but they need to be. We need to hear from everyone in the community and hear their concerns, one way or the other. Decision-making process is not going to be easy, but we appreciate all the work that this committee has done. They are doing the heavy lifting here. They really are. And I want to appreciate that very much. So I'm not involved in that portion of it this time, like I was 15 years ago. But I'm hoping we can come to a settlement that is going to be acceptable to everyone, at least to a small extent. We're not going to make everyone happy here. We just are not. We need to understand that going into it. And this is not the only county that is dealing with this. Look at Lincoln County and Clatsop County and Hood River County. There are a lot of areas with lots of rentals, short-term rentals and tourism, and you just cannot make everyone happy. You cannot. It's finding that balance somewhere that we're looking for. So, wish us luck going into this.
I appreciate those comments because as I read the comments coming in, what's very clear is that there are such strong feelings on both sides, which is why we'll never make everyone happy, because there are very strong feelings, legitimate feelings on both sides. And people who see the impact, the negative impacts of short-term rentals to their neighborhoods, and people who value them for the opportunities that they bring. And so you're right, we're trying to find our way through the middle and value everyone's passion and concern. So I'm grateful for the process and your leadership in it. Okay, I think we're ready for announcements. The Commissioners will hold a board briefing on Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 2 p.m. to discuss weekly Commissioner updates. The meeting will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse. The conference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 736023979. The Commissioners will hold an executive session on Monday, April 24th, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. pursuant to ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub A to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. The meeting will be held in the Commissioners Meeting Room 106 in the Tillamook County Courthouse. The executive session is not open to the public. The Commissioners will attend a Tillamook Lightwave meeting on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. The teleconference number is 253-215-8782, conference ID 899-5732-9678. And these announcements are on our website on the Commissioners page. Anything else? With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:28 a.m.